Hey everybody, it's Eric here with Spartan Auto Works. Today we're working on an 06 325 XI, I believe is what it is. Customer brought this in. It's car lot, just wants to get it to the auction. Doesn't run very well. When I say it doesn't run very well, I mean it's not missing. It kind of sounds like it's got spark knock to it and basically doesn't go over like 20-30 miles an hour. It does rev, but basically it's got no go. Outside the car looks good. I mean, interior looks really nice, but he basically said, you know, read the codes and then give me a call back and we'll see where we're at with it. So I read the codes, popped the hood, and first thing popping the hood, notice that it's got mix match bolts everywhere. So my first guess is this car probably was not very loved by whoever previously owned it. And then the codes we got were there was two codes for the ECM or the DME having incorrect checksum, and then there's a whole bunch of codes for the Valvetronic, and there's something else I can't remember off the top of my head. So anyway, just, you know, quick look. I was trying to snake the computer out without having to take all the shroud off, but I couldn't get that out. And when I went to go take it off, I realized, hey, there's a whole bunch of different mix match bolts here, so this is going to be kind of a job. So I called the customer, and he basically said, what do you think it is? He's like, I don't really want to put a lot of money in this car. I don't want to pay you really to diagnose it. I just want to, you know, kind of see what you think. I was like, well, let me clear the codes. I'll let the car run, take it for a quick test drive, see what codes come back, and I'll, you know, ask a couple of my shops that specialize in BMWs what they think, just to kind of have an idea. So I let the car run for about 3 hours, kind of forgot about it, and then took it for a quick test drive. Even after clearing the codes, still had sluggish movement. Car doesn't really go over 30 miles an hour at the most. It basically feels like you're hitting the firewall with the gas pedal. So took it for a quick drive, just literally a couple parking lots, down the road, back roads, whatever. Probably 2 miles, came back, read the codes again, all the same codes, but we don't have any more checksum errors for the computer. So initial thought here, before even asking for any advice on this, is, you know, you're not really going to get a checksum error unless the computer's bad. So first would be probably bad computer. I was trying to see what computer it was, what part number it was, to see if it's something that has some bad MOSFETs potentially that we could, you know, replace. But usually that would be followed by misfire, and we don't have misfires. So kind of banned the computer, like I said, when I couldn't get it out because of all the mismatched bolts. And then I made a couple phone calls to a couple BMW shops. One's kind of gave me some mixed information. So I kind of took what he said to the side, but he was, you know, basically saying, bring me the car, I'll fix it, and you just charge your customer. The other BMW shop that I talked to, that I do a lot of work with, he basically said, I told him what the codes were. He said, don't touch it, you're going to get married to this thing, it's going to be problematic, don't even get involved. He's like, just tell the customer they need to take it somewhere else. He's like, don't touch it. I'm like, okay. So called the customer and said, hey, this is what I was told, let me do a little research, as long as you're not in a hurry. You know, we'll kind of see where it's at. He told me don't put a lot of time into it because he doesn't want their bill racking up. Worst case scenario, he's just going to take it to the auction, and whatever it brings, and, you know, it's gone. So just a little bit of really YouTube discovery here. Looks like the Valvetronic motor is notoriously bad. Looks like there is a test for the motor. You know, just testing, I think, see if it goes to ground or something like that. Didn't really go too far. Did a little quick YouTube before bed one night. And so basically I called the customer back, said, hey, I don't think it's going to be a huge job just replacing the Valvetronic motor. But looks like there could be some other things. I don't know what it's going to cost. You know, I'd have to look all that up. Kind of up to you. What do you want to do? So he basically said, let me think about it. He called me back and he said, hey, I can get a Valvetronic motor off of Amazon. Would you put it in if I get it? I said, you know what? Not really big on the Amazon stuff. I really don't want to do labor twice. It's like, as long as you're willing to, pay the labor, I'm good with it. He's like, you know what? He's like, I just want a shotgun. What do you think it is? And where would you want to start? I said, if I'm just going by what I've done so far, not even really diagnosing the car, just reading codes and quick drive, and just going off symptoms alone, Valvetronic motor would probably be where I'd start, just because that's code. But I don't know anything about them, just because I've never had to run into something like this. I've never diagnosed it. He's like, I'm going to order off Amazon. I'll have it on Sunday, and you can throw it in. So here it is on Saturday. I'm going to go ahead and start tearing it apart. And one thing I am going to do, just because this kind of drives me nuts, I'm going to try to find the right bolts for like the valve cover and stuff like that, and try to swing by one of my buddy's junkyards this weekend and see if I can go rob some parts off one of his cars in the yard. So hopefully I'll get time to do that tomorrow, as long as he's around work, and try to put this car back together a little bit better than whoever previously owned it. Obviously didn't really care too much. So I'm going to grab some tools. We're going to start taking this apart. We're going to get down to the Valvetronic today. So this will be a couple part video. We'll get the Valvetronic motor at least getting ready to come out, and then we'll pick up with part 2 once we put the Valvetronic motor in it. And I may even look up the test procedure on the Valvetronic and see what that was again. I think it was just checking to see if it goes to ground or something like that. We'll check that out and put that as part of the video as well. This shouldn't be too difficult. Should be pretty easy to get to. And normally I kind of like to diagnose stuff correctly. This is a car lot that does a lot of wholesale, and he spends a lot of money with me, so I'm kind of willing to just kind of do whatever he wants at this point and just kind of shotgun it, and we'll see what happens. He's willing to throw a little money, I'm willing to throw a little time, so we'll see what happens here. So let me grab some tools, we'll come back, get this apart, and then we'll see where we're at. Alright, we're back. Let's get into this here. Just got a couple tools, and we'll start zipping this stuff off and see where we get. Gotta love the mismatch on stuff. Looks like somebody just went to Lowe's here and just got whatever they wanted. In the worst case scenario, I guess I'll run by the parts store or Lowe's or Home Depot and pick up some actual good hardware to put on here. It's the wrong size, but let's see if we can zip it off and save a trip to the toolbox. Jeez Louise. This person really did not like their car. Let's see here. This. Okay. I'm already not liking what I'm seeing already. Alright, talk about a mix match of screws and hardware here. So let's get the filter out of the way. Filter is out. Let's see, everything over here looks freed up. Should not need the Phillips anymore. This should on stow from here. put that in our little holder over here. I need to figure out what wire attached to that. Put that back on when we go back together here. Let's get this unplugged. And sensor unplugged. Of course, the phone ring. And we should have one more bolt right there. And I think that's it, and that should get that cowl cover off there. Alright, let's put this out of the way. Some broken plastic on there, it's always good. Let's see what else we got. I need to make sure I latch that back down, but we'll get to that later. Alright, so this is obviously not attached. This will come right off now. And welcome to the Valvetronic. So let me stop. I'm going to zoom in and we're going to talk about what I just found. Alright, so I had to manually focus in on this, but this guy here is our Valvetronic motor. In order to get the Valvetronic motor out, there's going to be a bolt that's under here. We'll have to pull these two coils, and then, let's see, bolts are there, these two coils, these two bolts right there. We're going to do the gasket as well, but this is kind of why, like, diagnosing is, like, kind of important. He's already ordered a motor, but it's already unplugged, so either there is a problem with this and this maybe got the car running, or he bought this car at auction, the good old auction 1-2 of, hey, I want to get this car cheaper, so let me sabotage it before it goes through the lane. That could have been something that happened here. Nobody, I don't know. We don't know anything about this car. It was purchased at auction, and it's always run bad. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to plug this in and going to hook up with my scan tool, and we're going to see what happens. But I kind of have a feeling probably nothing's going to change, because I have a feeling probably something is going on with this Valvetronic, which is probably why they got it disconnected. But like I said, in order to get this out, from what I can tell, bolt underneath, 2 bolts here. Make sure you always do the gasket, because suppose it leaks down the valve cover here. You have to pull these 2 coils and unbolt the rail, and then make sure you redo your grounds, which I thought there was supposed to be a ground that ran from here to here, but I see no ground there. We're gonna have to look into that, because I believe, I don't know if I can see it on my camera here, but I believe there's supposed to be a ground strap running from here to the frame, so that could be a problem as well. I don't have any misfires, but if there's one that's supposed to be there, we'll definitely have to make one up, or buy a replacement, or I might be able to get one off a donor vehicle at my buddy's junkyard, and see what we got there. But I'm going to go ahead and plug this Valvetronic back in and retest and see what happens. I'd say somebody's probably been in here maybe. I would say that looks like maybe possibly a newer valve cover gasket. I mean, there's definitely markings on the bolts for the valve cover, so maybe somebody's already been in here. Hard to say. Well, let's hook that up. I'm going to read codes, and then we'll see where we're at. Alright, so we're back. Engine's running. Been running probably, I don't know, 10-15 minutes now. Had a buddy stop by and had to repair a computer for him. So took that apart, repaired it. Only took me a few minutes to do that. Started a couple new components in it, and I let it run after I plugged this in. So far, no codes. So I'm not saying we're fixed, but I did call the customer and said, hey, it's been running for a few. clear the codes before I started it, and plug that motor back in. It's been running so far, no codes. Revs to the moon, which it would not do before. And I told him about all the hardware, and he said he didn't care, throw it back together. And he's on his way. He's gonna throw me some money, and as long as it makes it to the auction and runs through, he wants to figure this one closed. And he said he'll figure out the all the screwing down of the intake and all that. I thought this was really going to be some kind of video. I was actually kind of looking forward to taking that Valvetronic motor off of there. Like I said, the one shop I talked to said, do not touch it. I'm going to be married to it. So I really don't know if they're that problematic or if they have other problems or what. I almost feel like this isn't a video, but I'm going to upload it anyway. But yeah, so here's what we learned about auction cars. There's always some sabotage stuff going on, and kind of feel like that might have been the case here. Wasn't expecting that when I got into it, and I really wasn't expecting it to be this easy to fix. And I was really honestly expecting an Amazon part to be wasting my time, and I was going to probably have to do this over. But either there's some reason they have this unplugged that we might find out on the test drive back to this guy's place, or somebody sabotaged it going through the auction. And like I said, the outside of the car looks great. Underneath this car here, and I'm not even really digging that far, but just from the valve cover components that were taken off and the intake breather box, you know, it's usually never a good sign when you're seeing like some of this hardware here. It's all mixed matched, like license plate bolts practically, or screws. I mean, you got Phillips, flathead, 10 mils, stuff you probably use in your house, like just a little bit of everything. So unfortunately we're not going to be able to put it back together right, because right now, like I said, it's running, no codes, seems to rev to the moon. So I got to call this a case of good old sabotage from the auction. I guess it's so far. I mean, if something happens on the test drive and it ends up coming back here, I guess we'll find out. But I highly doubt plugging that back in, if that was faulty, it'd be working with no codes. But one thing I am going to probably look up before he gets here is I want to check about these grounds, because I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be a ground coming from here to the frame. At least I thought there was supposed to be. So I want to check that first, just before I put the valve cover back on. I'm just going to set it in place, because he said he didn't care if it got bolted down. So I'm going to look into that. Other than that, say this is case closed. Really, this should be an education and proper diagnosis. I guess if he had really wanted to pay me a properly diagnosis, he would have saved some money and not bought the motor off Amazon already, because he ordered it yesterday, said it's going to be here Sunday. So I guess that's going to be a return to Amazon, because it doesn't look like it's going to be needed. It says it's running good. I don't, like I said, no codes. So open and shut. Proper diagnosis, we would have found out if he had wanted to pay for a little diag time instead of just a off the cuff what I think it was. We would have known that it would have had a unplugged Valvetronic motor. And maybe it is bad, we don't know yet. But so far, no codes, running good, revs to the moon. I don't think we're gonna have an issue when we pull it out of here. It doesn't sound like it's spark knocking anymore like it did before. So I think it's a case of sabotage. So we'll see if there's a follow-up. Not expecting a follow-up. I think we're good here. The car does have some other codes, some FRM codes. It's got brake light kind of stuck on. So probably going to need an FRM. But we're not getting paid to fix that. We're not getting paid to diagnose it. He just wants to run this thing back to the auction. Now, he wanted to run through the auction because it was running bad, and he didn't want to spend more money because he keeps getting buried in exotic cars or German cars. But I think this is probably one I'd fix, because the body is perfect and the interior is perfect. I think I'd probably fix this up. But again, if somebody's going to put screws like that back in, what is the maintenance history on a car like this? We don't know. That's like kind of a scary situation. Like when I see stuff like that, pretty much means that probably somebody who is not a mechanic, try to work on their car, and probably bought the cheapest parts possible, or didn't maintain it, didn't do oil changes. That's just kind of a sign to me, sloppy work, or you know, doing stuff like that. It's kind of a sign of sloppy work, which means probably this car may have problems just for lack of maintenance or improper maintenance. So I don't know. I guess the catch-22, man, the car is like really nice body-wise. I'm not into wagon BMWs, but I almost kind of am at this point. Like, I almost kind of want to buy this car myself. But anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. If there's a part 2, then we know that the car didn't make it back to this guy's lot, and we'll be working on it again. I think if we have to work on it again, I'm sure he'll probably just want to throw a Valvetronic in it, but I'm probably going to push him to actually let me diagnose it if we get a different outcome instead of just shotgunning parts. But he does spend a lot of money with me, and I got a Mercedes top to do for him here. So sometimes you just kind of let the customer, I guess, dictate what they want to do. So anyway, we'll call this closed for now. Proper diag. Came in, barely ran, Valvetronic codes. Had an ECM code for Checksum, and a slew of other stuff, probably all related to that not functioning correctly because it's unplugged. So we'll see if the car makes it back to the lot. He's a few miles away, see how it drives, any codes come back. If it's a problem, we'll have a part 2. If not much of a video here, but proper diagnosis should be the key point here. Always properly diagnose. Like I said, if he had let me really get into this and test the Valvetronic, like I had told him, he wouldn't have already spent money on Amazon for a Valvetronic motor, and he would have had a little bit more money in his pocket. And yeah, proper diagnosis. So, alright, until next time, guys, have a good one. Hey guys, just before we wrap this video up, which has already been wrapped up, but this will be an addendum to the video. One of the things that I was talking about when I saw that checksum code, one of the things I wanted to check on these is I've seen where the computer, which is inside there, gets water in it because it fills up with water coming off the cowl. So I was kind of expecting maybe to find something there, even though we never fully got that cover off. I just took it off a second ago just to check everything out. So on some of these BMWs, water gets in there, and usually you get a lost communication. I've got one I actually got to go do because of that here locally. I got to reprogram because it got water in it. So that's one of the things to check. If you got some runnability issues, you want to check and see if water has gotten into there and maybe done some water damage to the computer. But other than that, that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap this up. Going to be on the tail end of this video about proper diagnosis. I think is really the key that we learned here today. But yeah, if you have issues with a BMW running and there's no other signs, check that compartment right there, see if there's any water in it. But other than that, till next time, guys.